Double standards exist in our justice system. We remember the days when protesters were outside of the Supreme Court justices' houses, and there were very little repercussions for that illegal activity. The story comes over from the Epoch Times, says we now know that the DOJ intentionally didn't want to prosecute these people. They are going hog wild over the J6ers and other people in this country for sending illegal text messages, illegal memes, and things of that variety. But when there's an outright violation of the law, when there's a Supreme Court justice's house in the background and there are protesters violating federal law, they don't do anything about it. In fact, the DOJ excuses it, actually dissuaded marshals from making arrests at the protesters' homes. Curious why that might be. This came out during a March 28th hearing. I have the clip. Apparently, there was an internal memo from the DOJ, Merrick Garland, that dissuaded U.S. Marshals from arresting protesters, even though they were in direct violation of the laws. They were picketing at the homes of judges after the Dobbs decision was leaked. The materials revealed during the hearing show that U.S. Marshals were explicitly directed not to arrest the protesters. The person we're going to hear from, her name is Senator Katie Britt. She's a Republican from Alaska. She was speaking at a Senate Appropriations Committee hearing. Attorney General Merrick Garland appeared before the panel to talk about the DOJ side of the president's proposed budget. Now, they bring up Section 1507 of the U.S. Code. It's the law that prohibits the picketing outside the judges' homes because you don't want to improperly influence the judges. You don't want to encourage them to vote one way or another or else. But when protesters demonstrated at the homes of the justices protesting the leaked decision, marshals made few arrests in connection with the statute. And there was that other kid even who was going to go up and I think was intending to assassinate one of these justices. Talk about the language coming out of the left about weaponizing politics for stochastic terrorism, to use their language, saying that the trans people are on the verge of genocide, saying that, you know, women, or even this, in this case, that this was a young man, I think, who was weaponized to go and take action. Now, he was arrested, but a lot of the other people outside of the residence were not. Few arrests were made in connection with the law, which obviously exists, but this was not a mistake. Let's listen to the senator explain this. Senator Katie Boyd Britt posted this. She is the senator fighting for the great state of Alabama. She said, not a single person has been prosecuted for illegally harassing Supreme Court justices outside of their homes. The reason is crystal clear. The DOJ has willfully chosen not to enforce the law, and I presented evidence of that. When you say they were given the full authority today. When you say they were given the full authority to arrest people violating Section 1507, I would ask, will you take a look at these slides, these materials, dig into them? It is clear that these marshals were given directives that narrowed the scope. Of course, we all want the physical safety. The physical safety of our Supreme Court justice is paramount, and we thank you for sending those marshals there. 1507, though, actually is more all-encompassing than that narrowly tailored objective. And it says picketing or parading near a building or housing, if you're doing it with the intent to interfere with, obstruct, or impede the administration of justice, or influencing any judge in the discharge of his duty. It's clear when you look at these slides that the marshals were not given those directives. I would like for you to take a look at that. And if you agree with that statement, I'd like for you to amend your testimony to the Judiciary Committee.
Well, there's nothing for me to amend because, as I said, I've never seen those slides before.
I know I need to yield my time. It's clear the marshals were given a different directive, and I would ask you to look into that, please.
I will.
I've never seen it. Okay, but it came from your Justice Department. They got the slides that were dissuading them from taking any action on this. Well, I don't know. I never saw it. Oh, did it come from your people? If you said that you didn't encourage them to not conduct arrests, and there are slides roaming around your office where that happened, can you look at that and tell us why that happened? Did you authorize people to make those decisions without talking to you? Do you think that it's appropriate for other underlings to make decisions about protests taking place at Supreme Court justices' houses? Think maybe it's a good idea for them to talk to you about that? Especially if it involves Dobbs? and a major restructuring of abortion law in this country might be good. But no, this is what they do. I never heard about it, never saw those slides, no idea what was going on there. So I guess that's it. We don't even need you in Congress anymore. Guess go back and do whatever you want. Nobody cares. Here, Section 1507 explicitly prohibits picketing or parading, especially to influence the outcome of a case. A few weeks earlier, Garland fielded questions from the Senate Judiciary Committee about the failure to prosecute. During that line of questioning, he said U.S. Marshals have the authority to arrest anyone under that statute or any other federal statute. Says the Attorney General does not make the decision to arrest. The marshals on the scene, they do make the decision of whether to arrest. That's what he said. But newly uncovered materials used to train the marshals to protect the homes of SCOTUS justices show that, quote, they were actively discouraged from making arrests. Weird. Those materials show the marshals likely didn't make any arrests because they were actively encouraged from doing so. The materials said, quote, to avoid the arrests unless absolutely necessary, any criminal enforcement action involving the protesters. Interesting. Now, we've made this point all the time. You know, the DOJ can decide with its money, its resources, its power, its attention, what to focus on. If they wanted to focus on only Antifa in this country, they could make Antifa look like the J6ers. Every day we hear about J6, insurrection, weaponization of Trump's MAGA ultra base to take over the country. And you know, the list goes on and on and on. That, in part, is due to the decisions of the DOJ. They're hyper-focused on these crimes. They're not focused on other crimes, like the ones that benefit their political side. The training material says avoid it unless absolutely necessary. But if you step foot in the Capitol and you send a bad text message, you get arrested. Says making arrests and initiating prosecutions is not the goal of the Marshal Service at the presence at the SCOTUS houses. The word not is actually italicized and underlined. Making arrests and initiating prosecutions is not the goal. Not at all. You're just supposed to be there and just kind of, you know, make sure nothing bad happens. The next slide of the training is to, quote, not engage in protest-related enforcement beyond those that were strictly and immediately necessary to protect the physical security of the justices. But that's not really what this statute is only about. It's about intimidation. It's not just about physical security. That's why the statute says what it says. That it is relevant when it might impact their decision on the case, influencing the outcome of a case. If they're standing outside their residence screaming at them, that might impact the outcome of the case, and they were explicitly told not to do anything. Regardless, any arrests of the protesters are a last resort to prevent physical harm. Garland claims, no, first time I've seen this slide. Never seen it before. I don't even really work here. He said the marshals' first and principal job is to protect lives and property. That's their first priority. There's nothing to amend. I've never seen the slides. And we'll see if anything comes of it. Of course, Congress, I think, should take a little bit more of an active step in reining in the insanity of this DOJ, but only time will tell if that happens.